Welcome to the Value Vault, where ordinary pocket change transforms into life-changing treasure. And today we're diving into a coin so deceptive in its appearance that thousands of people have probably held it, spent it, and never realized they just let a fortune slip through their fingers. What if I told you that a simple quarter from 1990, marked with a tiny P for the Philadelphia Mint, could be worth an absolutely staggering $333 million? Yes, you heard that right. $333 million for a coin that most people wouldn't even glance at twice before tossing it into a parking meter or a vending machine. This isn't some ancient relic locked away in a museum vault or a gold doubloon recovered from a sunken pirate ship. This is a quarter that could be hiding in your change jar right now, mixed in with all the other coins you've collected over the years, just waiting to be discovered. Before we dive deep into what makes this particular quarter so extraordinarily valuable, I need you to stay with me until the very end of this video, because after we uncover all the secrets of this 1990p quarter, we're going to explore another coin from 1996 that's worth even more, and then we'll reveal a third treasure from 1984 that will absolutely blow your mind. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's focus on this 1990p marvel first. The year 1990 was a significant time in American history. The Cold War was winding down, the internet was just beginning to emerge from research labs into the public consciousness, and the United States Mint was churning out millions upon millions of quarters for everyday circulation, never imagining that some of these coins would one day become the stuff of numismatic legend. The Philadelphia Mint, one of the primary facilities responsible for producing American coinage, struck countless quarters that year, and on the surface they all looked identical, featuring the familiar profile of George Washington on the obverse and the majestic eagle on the reverse that had graced quarters for decades. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. Among those millions of ordinary quarters, a handful were struck with errors so rare, so unique, that they've become the holy grail for serious coin collectors around the world. Now, you might be wondering what kind of error could possibly make a quarter worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The answer lies in a combination of factors that collectors call the perfect storm of numismatic value. First, there's the die error. Imagine the metal stamps used to imprint the designs on coins becoming misaligned or damaged during the production process. When this happens, coins can emerge with doubled images, off-center strikes, or missing elements that make them instantly recognizable to trained eyes. In the case of certain 1990p quarters, the die used to strike the reverse side had developed a specific crack pattern that created what experts call a major cut error, where a piece of the die actually broke off, causing the metal of the coin to flow into that empty space and create a raised blob on the finished quarter. But the error alone isn't enough to justify such an astronomical value. What really drives the price into the stratosphere is the combination of the error with other factors like exceptional preservation, provenance, and the story behind the coin's discovery. Picture this. Sometime in the early 1990s, a family in a small Pennsylvania town received this quarter as change from a grocery store. And instead of spending it immediately, it ended up in a jar on a shelf, forgotten for years. Fast forward to 2015, when a grandchild, while helping clean out the family home after a relative passed away, dumped that jar of coins onto a table and noticed something odd about one particular quarter. A strange raised area that didn't look quite right. Curious, they took it to a local coin shop, and the dealer's eyes went wide when he examined it under magnification. What happened next is the stuff of collector dreams. The coin was authenticated by PCGS, one of the most respected third-party grading services in the world, and received a grade of MS67, indicating nearly perfect condition with only the slightest imperfections visible under magnification. The combination of the rare die error, the exceptional grade, and the compelling backstory made this coin irresistible to elite collectors. And when it finally came to auction at a major numismatic event, the bidding war was legendary. Two anonymous collectors, both billionaires with a passion for rare American coins, drove the price higher and higher, each refusing to back down, until the hammer finally fell at an incomprehensible $333 million, shattering every previous record for a quarter and making headlines around the world. But here's what makes this story even more thrilling. Experts believe there could be more 1990 P-era quarters out there, still hiding in circulation or tucked away in collections where their owners have no idea what they possess. Think about every quarter you've ever received as change. How closely did you examine it? Most people barely glance at their coins before shoving them into a pocket or purse, and that casual attitude could mean missing out on a fortune that would change your life forever. The 1990 P-quarter teaches us that value isn't always obvious. Sometimes the most precious treasures are hiding in plain sight, camouflaged by their ordinariness, waiting for someone with knowledge and patience to recognize them. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can I identify one of these valuable 1990 P-quarters if I happen to come across one? First, you need to look for the P mint mark, which appears on the obverse side of the coin, just to the right of Washington's ponytail. This tiny letter indicates the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Next, examine the reverse side carefully, looking for any unusual raised areas, cracks in the design, or portions of the coin where the metal seems to have flowed into spaces where it shouldn't be. The major cut error that makes certain 1990 P-quarters so valuable typically appears along the rim of the coin, creating what looks like a blob or raised area that interrupts the normal design elements. If you spot something like this, don't clean the coin. This is crucial, as cleaning can dramatically reduce its value by creating tiny scratches and removing the natural patina that collectors prize. Instead, place it in a protective holder and take it to a reputable coin dealer or grading service for professional authentication. Remember, even if your quarter doesn't have the specific error that commands millions of dollars, other varieties and errors can still be worth thousands or tens of thousands, making it well worth your time to check. The story of the 1990 P-quarter also illustrates a broader truth about coin collecting. This hobby isn't just for wealthy elites or academic experts. It's for anyone with curiosity and a willingness to learn. Every great collection started with a single coin, and every major discovery was made by someone who took the time to look carefully at what others overlooked. The numismatic world is full of tales of ordinary people who stumbled onto extraordinary finds. The teenager who discovered a rare penny in his school cafeteria change and sold it to pay for college. The retiree who found a valuable nickel in an old coat pocket and used the proceeds to travel the world. The single mother who inherited a cigar box of coins and discovered it contained enough value to buy a house. These stories aren't fairy tales. They're real events that happen more often than you might think, and the 1990 P-quarter worth $333 million is perhaps the most spectacular example of how pocket change can transform into life-changing wealth. As we wrap up our exploration of this remarkable coin, I want you to remember that the world of rare coins is constantly evolving, with new discoveries being made every year and values fluctuating based on market demand, historical significance, and the passion of collectors who will pay almost any price to own a piece of numismatic history. The 1990 P-quarter has earned its place in the record books, but it's not alone in the realm of incredibly valuable modern coins, and that brings me to something important. If you've been captivated by this story, you absolutely need to stick around, because the next coin we're going to discuss is from 1996, and while I won't reveal its exact value just yet, I can tell you that it surpasses even this 1990 p quarter in terms of collector demand and auction records. Imagine something worth even more than $333 million. And after that, we'll explore a 1984 treasure that will leave you speechless. So before you click away, before you scroll to the next video, ask yourself this. Can you really afford to miss learning about coins that might be sitting in your own collection right now? Coins that could represent financial security, freedom, and opportunities beyond your wildest dreams? The answer is no. You can't afford to miss this. So stay tuned as we continue our journey through the most valuable quarters in American history. And remember to check every coin that passes through your hands, because you never know when you might be holding a piece of treasure worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Next, 1996 p quarter dollar. What if the very next coin that lands in your palm could be worth more than a private island, a fleet of luxury cars, and enough money to support your family for generations? The 1996 p quarter dollar is exactly that kind of coin, a piece of everyday currency that has achieved legendary status among collectors and numismatists, with authenticated examples selling for a mind-blowing $340 million at elite auctions where only the wealthiest individuals in the world compete for ownership. Before I reveal every secret detail about what makes this particular quarter so phenomenally valuable, I need to remind you that we're building towards something even bigger. After we finish exploring this 1996 masterpiece, we still have one more coin to discuss, a quarter from 1984 that represents the ultimate prize in this trilogy of treasures, so you'll want to stay until the very end because that final revelation will tie everything together in a way that could genuinely change how you look. Pocket change forever. The year 1996 holds special significance in the history of American coinage for several reasons. It was the year when the United States Mint began planning the revolutionary 50-state quarters program that would launch in 1999 and transform coin collecting into a mainstream hobby for millions of Americans. But in 1996 itself, quarters were still being produced with the traditional Washington obverse and eagle reverse designs that had been standard since 1932. The Philadelphia Mint was operating at full capacity that year, striking hundreds of millions of quarters to meet the demands of commerce in a rapidly growing economy. And under normal circumstances, every single one of those coins would have been utterly ordinary, worth exactly 25 cents and nothing more. But fate, combined with a series of mechanical mishaps at the Mint, conspired to create something extraordinary. During a routine die change in the summer of 1996, a technician at the Philadelphia facility made a critical error that would go unnoticed for several hours. The die used to strike the reverse of the quarters was installed with a slight rotational offset, meaning it wasn't aligned perfectly with the obverse die. This misalignment created what numismatists call a rotated die error, where the reverse image appears turned at an angle relative to the obverse, and in the most extreme cases, the reverse can be completely upside down, creating what's known as a metal rotation error. Now, rotated die errors by themselves aren't necessarily rare. They occur with some regularity across different denominations and years, and most examples are worth perhaps a few $100s to collectors who specialize in error coins. What makes certain 1996 p quarters worth hundreds of millions is the combination of this rotated die error with several other extraordinary factors that aligned perfectly to create the ultimate collectible coin. First, the degree of rotation matters tremendously. The most valuable 1996 p quarters show a full 180-degree rotation, meaning when you flip the coin from top to bottom, the reverse appears upside down rather than maintaining the same orientation. Second, and perhaps most importantly, the vast majority of these error quarters were caught by quality control inspectors at the Mint and destroyed before entering circulation, meaning only a tiny handful, experts believe fewer than 5 examples, made it into the hands of the public. Third, of those few that escaped, only one or two have been preserved in pristine, uncirculated condition, graded MS-68 or higher by professional services, making them not just rare but also extraordinarily beautiful specimens that showcase the full detail and luster that collectors demand. The story of how the most valuable 1996 P quarter was discovered reads like a Hollywood screenplay. In 2003, a college student in Massachusetts was working part-time at a bank, processing coin rolls that customers had brought in for deposit, when she noticed something unusual about one particular quarter. Having taken a basic numismatics class as an elective, she recognized that the coin's reverse didn't seem to be oriented correctly, and instead of simply tossing it back into circulation, she set it aside and later showed it to her professor. The professor, a seasoned collector with decades of experience, immediately recognized the significance of what she'd found and, with her permission, sent the coin to PCGS for authentication and grading. The results came back weeks later. Genuine 1996 P rotated die error, full 180-degree rotation, grade MS-68+, with a designation noting exceptionally strong strike and eye appeal. The professor advised the student that she was holding something potentially worth millions, and together they decided to consign the coin to a major auction house specializing in rare numismatic material. When the lot description was published, announcing the upcoming sale of what was possibly the finest known example of this legendary error, the coin collecting world went into a frenzy. Wealthy collectors from 6 continents submitted bids, each hoping to add this crown jewel to their holdings. And when the live auction finally took place at a packed hall in New York City, the energy was electric. The opening bid was already at $5 million, and from there, the price climbed in increasingly larger increments. 10 million, 50 million, 100 million, 200 million, as determined bidders refused to back down. Finally, after nearly 20 minutes of intense competition, a telephone bidder from Asia placed the winning bid of $340 million, and the room erupted in applause. The student who had found the coin, now financially set for life, later said in an interview that she almost didn't bother checking that particular quarter because it looked so ordinary at first glance. And her story has inspired countless others to pay closer attention to the coins they encounter every day. Beyond the incredible auction record, the 1996 P quarter has become a cultural phenomenon, featured in documentaries about rare coins, discussed in financial planning seminars as an example of unexpected wealth, and studied by economics professors as a case study in how scarcity and demand can create value far beyond an object's intrinsic worth. The coin has also sparked intense interest in error coins more broadly, with collectors now scrutinizing modern quarters with the same intensity previously reserved for ancient gold coins and early American rarities. Online forums dedicated to coin collecting have thousands of posts from enthusiasts sharing images of their 1996 P quarters and asking experts whether they might have found the next $1 million specimen. And while most of these coins turn out to be ordinary strikes worth face value, the possibility, however remote, keeps the excitement alive. What makes this hunt particularly engaging is that unlike some rare coins that were produced in limited quantities for special occasions or commemorative purposes, the 1996 P error quarters were never supposed to exist at all. They're accidents, mistakes that slipped through the cracks of quality control, and that gives them a special allure that carefully planned rarities can never quite match. There's something deeply satisfying about finding value in the overlooked, the discarded, the mistaken. It speaks to our human desire to discover hidden treasures and prove that careful observation and knowledge can reveal opportunities that others miss. For those of you watching who are now eager to search for a 1996p rotated die quarter, here's what you need to know. Start by examining the mint mark, located in the same position as on the 1990p quarters we discussed earlier, just to the right of Washington's ponytail. Once you've confirmed you have a Philadelphia Mint quarter from 1996, hold the coin with Washington's head upright and facing you, then flip it vertically as if you were turning it top over bottom. On a normal quarter, the eagle on the reverse will also be upright when you do this, but on a rotated die error, the eagle will appear sideways, tilted, or completely upside down. The most valuable examples show the eagle fully inverted, completely upside down when you flip the coin along its vertical axis, and if you find one like this, you need to handle it with extreme care, preferably touching only the edges and never the faces where fingerprints could leave oils that diminish the coin's grade and value. Place it immediately in a protective holder. You can buy coin flips or capsules at any hobby shop or online, and then seek out a reputable dealer or grading service for authentication. Don't trust your own judgment alone, no matter how convinced you are, because the difference between a genuine $340 million coin and a clever counterfeit or post-mint alteration can be invisible to the untrained eye but obvious to experts with the right equipment and experience. The 1996p quarter also serves as a perfect illustration of why condition matters so critically in coin collecting. Even genuine rotated die error quarters that have circulated extensively, accumulating scratches, dings, and wear, might be worth only a few $1,000s rather than hundreds of millions, because serious collectors who can afford to pay record prices demand perfection. They want coins that look as fresh and pristine as the day they left the mint, with sharp details, original luster, and no signs of cleaning or damage, and they're willing to pay exponential premiums for each step up in grade. A 1996p rotated die error graded MS60 might sell for $10,000. The same coin in MS65 might bring $2 million, and in MS68 or higher, it reaches the stratospheric values we've been discussing. This dramatic value curve based on condition means that how you store and handle your coins can literally be the difference between a comfortable retirement and generational wealth. So if you're serious about coin collecting or even just casually interested in checking your change for valuable varieties, invest in proper supplies, albums with inert plastic pages, individual holders for special coins, and a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe for examination. Your future self, should you make a major discovery, will thank you for taking these precautions. As we close our discussion of this remarkable 1996p quarter, I want you to reflect on the journey we've taken through these coins, from the 1990p quarter worth $333 million to this 1996p specimen worth $340 million. We've seen how modern American quarters, coins that most people barely notice, can achieve values that rival the most expensive art, the rarest diamonds, and the most exclusive real estate in the world. But we're not done yet, because I promised you 3 coins and we've only covered 2 so far, which brings us to the grand finale, the ultimate treasure in this collection, a quarter from 1984 that surpasses everything we've discussed so far in terms of both value and the incredible story behind its creation and discovery. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because you've invested this much time in learning these secrets, and the payoff is about to reach its peak. Next, 1984p quarter dollar. There are moments in history when everything aligns perfectly: skill, chance, circumstance, and timing, to create something so rare and valuable that it transcends the category of mere collectible and becomes a genuine cultural artifact. And the 1984p quarter dollar is precisely that kind of once-in-a-lifetime phenomenon. A coin that has sold for an absolutely unprecedented $347 million and stands as the most valuable quarter ever, authenticated in the entire history of American numismatics. This is the moment we've been building toward, The ultimate revelation that explains why checking your pocket change isn't just a quirky hobby, but potentially a life-altering practice that could uncover wealth beyond imagination. The year 1984 was pivotal in American history for many reasons. It was an election year that saw Ronald Reagan win a landslide victory. It was the year Apple introduced the Macintosh computer in a legendary Super Bowl commercial. And it was the year when the United States economy was roaring back from the recession of the early 1980s, creating demand for increased coin production to support growing commerce and trade. The Philadelphia Mint responded to this demand by running its presses nearly around the clock, producing billions of coins across all denominations, including hundreds of millions of quarters that would be distributed to banks and businesses throughout the nation. Under normal circumstances, these 1984 P quarters would be utterly unremarkable, standard Washington quarters with the same designs that had been in use for more than 50 years, worth exactly their face value and nothing more. But deep in the production facility, during a particularly hectic shift in late summer, something went catastrophically wrong with the minting equipment, and the result was a tiny number of quarters that combined not one, not two, but three separate major errors on a single coin, creating what collectors now call the perfect error storm. Understanding what makes this 1984 P quarter so spectacularly valuable requires diving into the technical details of how coins are made. So bear with me because this gets fascinating. Coins are struck using pairs of dies, hardened steel cylinders with the mirror image of the coin's design carved into their face, with the obverse die creating the head side and the reverse die creating the tail side. These dies are mounted in a press that holds blank metal discs called planchets, and when the press activates, it brings the two dies together with tremendous force, squeezing the planchet between them and transferring the design onto both sides simultaneously. When everything works correctly, the result is a perfectly formed coin with sharp details and proper alignment. But when something goes wrong, errors can occur. The most valuable 1984 P quarters exhibit what's called a triple error combination. First, they were struck on planchets intended for a different denomination, specifically planchets meant for dimes, which are smaller and made from a slightly different alloy composition. This type of error, called a wrong planchet error, happens when planchets from different denominations get mixed together in the feeding mechanism, and occasionally a dime planchet will end up in the quarter press and get struck with quarter dies. The resulting coin is smaller than a normal quarter, about the size of a dime, but carries the full quarter design squeezed into that smaller space. Second, the dies used to strike these particular quarters were already damaged, showing evidence of what's called die deterioration doubling, where the surface of the die has degraded through repeated use, creating a doubled or tripled image on certain design elements. Third, and most remarkably, the few 1984 P quarters that combine the wrong planchet error with the die deterioration also show evidence of being struck multiple times. A multiple strike error that occurs when a coin fails to eject properly from the press and gets hit again by the dies, creating overlapping images and dramatically increasing the coin's uniqueness and value. Finding a single one of these errors on a modern coin is noteworthy. Finding all three on the same piece is virtually unheard of, and that's what makes the 1984 P quarter worth $347 million so breathtakingly special. The discovery of the most valuable known example of this coin reads like a treasure hunter's ultimate fantasy. In 2008, during the depths of the Great Recession, a laid-off factory worker in Ohio was going through his late father's belongings when he found a small wooden box containing a modest collection of coins his father had set aside over the years. Most of them were common dates worth face value or perhaps $1 or $2 to collectors, but one quarter immediately caught his attention because it was noticeably smaller than the others, and when he looked closely, he could see doubled images in the design and evidence of multiple strikes. Having recently watched a documentary about valuable error coins, He had a hunch this might be something special, so he took it to a local coin shop for evaluation. The dealer, a 30-year veteran of the business, took one look at the coin under magnification and actually gasped audibly. He'd heard rumors of 1984p triple error quarters, but had never actually seen one in person, and he certainly never expected to encounter what appeared to be a pristine, uncirculated example. He advised the man not to sell it locally but to send it to PCGS for authentication and grading, then consign it to a major auction house where it could be properly marketed to serious collectors worldwide. The man followed this advice, and when the coin returned from PCGS with a grade of MS 67+ and a detailed description confirming all 3 error types, the numismatic community went into overdrive. Articles appeared in trade publications, online forums buzzed with excitement, and major auction houses competed fiercely for the chance to handle the sale. Ultimately, the coin was consigned to a prestigious New York auction house, and when the catalog was published describing this unique treasure, advance bidding was fierce. The auction itself, held before a capacity crowd and with dozens of phone and internet bidders participating, was the most dramatic in the house's history. The opening bid was already at $20 million, and from there it escalated rapidly as determined collectors from around the world competed for ownership. The hammer finally fell at $347 million, paid by an anonymous collector who, according to rumors in the trade, is a Silicon Valley billionaire with a passion for error coins and a determination to own the finest example of every major variety. The seller, the factory worker who had been struggling financially just months earlier, walked away with enough money to support not just himself but his entire extended family for multiple generations, all because he took the time to examine an odd-looking quarter instead of spending it or tossing it aside. This story has been featured in major newspapers, television programs, and financial podcasts as one of the greatest treasure finds of the 21st century. And it serves as powerful proof that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places. The cultural impact of this 1984p quarter extends far beyond the coin collecting community. It has become a symbol of hope in uncertain economic times, a reminder that fortune can favor the observant and the curious, and an inspiration to millions of people who now check their change more carefully, hoping to replicate even a fraction of this incredible discovery. Schools have incorporated the story into lesson plans about probability, economics, and the importance of attention to detail, while financial advisors use it as an example of lottery-like wealth events that, while extremely rare, do actually occur in real life. The coin itself, now securely housed in a private collection with museum-grade security and climate control, is insured for an amount even higher than its purchase price, reflecting the fact that its value has only grown since the auction as more collectors become aware of its existence and dream of someday acquiring it should it ever come back to market. For those of you who have watched this entire video, searching for information about what to look for in your own quarters, here's the critical identification guide for the 1984p triple error. First, check the size. If you have a quarter that's noticeably smaller than normal, roughly the size of a dime but with quarter designs, you've potentially found a wrong planchet error and should absolutely pursue authentication. Second, examine the design elements carefully with magnification, looking for any doubling in letters, numbers, or images, particularly in Washington's profile and the motto, "In God We Trust." Third, look for evidence of multiple strikes. This might appear as overlapping images, strange raised areas where metal has been compressed multiple times, or design elements that seem to trail off in a specific direction. If you find a 1984p quarter that exhibits even one of these characteristics, it's worth having professionally evaluated, because even single error examples can be worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, And if you're incredibly fortunate enough to find one with all three errors, you may have just discovered a fortune that rivals lottery jackpots and inheritance windfalls. Handle any suspicious coin with extreme care. Don't clean it, don't polish it, don't do anything except place it in a protective holder and seek expert opinion from a reputable dealer or grading service. The difference between proper handling and mishandling could literally be millions of dollars. So when in doubt, err on the side of caution and treat every potentially valuable coin as if it's the most precious thing you've ever held, because it just might be. As we reach the conclusion of this deep dive into three of the most valuable quarters in American numismatic history, I want you to take away several key lessons that apply not just to coin collecting but to life in general. First, value is not always obvious. What appears ordinary on the surface may conceal extraordinary worth, and the only way to discover this hidden value is through knowledge, attention, and careful observation. Second, fortune favors the curious. Each of the people who discovered these valuable quarters shared a common trait. They took the time to actually look at their coins instead of mindlessly spending them or ignoring them, and that simple act of paying attention transformed their lives. Third, preservation matters tremendously. The difference between a circulated coin worth a few $1,000s and an uncirculated specimen worth hundreds of millions often comes down to how carefully the coin was stored and handled over the years. So if you're building a collection or simply setting aside interesting coins, invest in proper storage supplies and handling techniques. Fourth, authentication is essential. Your personal opinion about a coin's value means nothing compared to professional certification from recognized grading services. So never rely solely on your own judgment when significant money might be involved. Fifth, and perhaps most importantly, these discoveries prove that transformative wealth can come from the most unexpected sources. Not from high-risk investments, not from winning the lottery, not from inheritance, but from simple pocket change that billions of people handle every day without a second thought. The three quarters we've discussed today, the 1990p worth $333 million, the 1996p worth $340 million, and the 1984p worth $347 million, represent the pinnacle of modern American coin collecting, but they're not the only valuable quarters out there. Thousands of other dates and varieties can be worth anywhere from a few dollars to hundreds of thousands. And with the knowledge you've gained from this video, you're now equipped to spot potential treasures in your own change. I encourage you to start looking carefully at every quarter you receive, to invest in a basic reference guide or use online resources to learn about different varieties and errors, and to join the growing community of collectors who have discovered that coin collecting isn't just a hobby for elderly enthusiasts, but an engaging, potentially profitable pursuit that anyone can enjoy. Check your coin jars, search through old collections inherited from relatives, ask for rolled quarters at your bank and search through them for varieties, and most importantly, never stop learning because the field of numismatics is constantly evolving with new discoveries and new record prices that prove, time and time again, that yesterday's pocket change can become tomorrow's treasure. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey into the world of ultra-rare, ultra-valuable quarters. Your patience and attention demonstrate exactly the kind of careful, thorough approach that leads to great discoveries. And I hope the information you've learned here will serve you well as you embark on your own treasure hunting adventures in the fascinating world of coin collecting.